I guess, and living with wolves and all living through London. But there was one respite, wasn't there? You got to take a shower with Jenny Agatha, right?
Hey, yippee! You know, it's as you know, well, maybe you don't know. If you've ever made even a home movie, you're really concentrating on getting the shot. Because there's so yeah, sure. By the way, did I mention they don't really have showers in London in 1981?
Yeah, now they do.
So they had to build one, and so you got a guy trying to work the hot and cold, and so you're going.
The hot and cold worked perfectly. It was just like if we didn't like their performance, it's like give him a jolt.
Comes out. Yeah, sure. So there was that. There was, it was all just a set. So nothing really is like, you had to be really careful. And of course, I'm.
This is what he told his wife at the time.
That's right. I'm just thinking, hey, they're not looking at me anyway. So.
All right. Since we've got the thanks guys here, we've only got a couple of minutes. Can we? I know Steve likes to talk, so can we put it to? Can we give it to Bill first?
I know Steve likes to talk, so can we give it to Bill?
Bill, you told me a funny story once about one of the guys in the cinema and he had all the guts and didn't a mistake happen right there?
Oh yeah, actually Steve was there, so he can tell that story better. I think it was in the montage, but the guy who went into the theater to check on the house, you see the wolf kind of eating his guts, and they did another kind of below the set rig. So the guy was in there, and he had a fake body, and Stephen Rick had put these guts, which were real guts, and they were old real guts. So they put them in there, and then Kevin was in the suit, and he had his face in the old real guts. And so it took like 20 minutes to set up, and in England, instead of saying roll them, they say turn over to get the camera started. So John said turn over, and the guy turned over.
Oh, come on, Steve, here we go then. Steve Johnson, let him have a spin.
Still let me talk about whatever I want to. Let's talk about some of my work.
No. You've had your time.
Okay, American Werewolf. Probably the most intense memory I have is not the glory of the transformation ads or the fact that it was the first time I'd left the country, but it was the first day that we started doing the transformation sequence. And I was so excited, working shoulder to shoulder with my hero, Mr. Baker. And I showed up all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. David Naughton showed up. It was at 3 in the morning, whatever. Oh boy, Rick, what are we going to shoot first? Are we going to do the stage 2 makeup or the heat in first? I didn't know what to do. He goes, no, come on in here, David, and take all of your clothes off. Steve, which ass cheek would you like? It was for the first scene where you dropped your pants. Let me tell you though, I've done a lot of movies with nude men, and I've never done that since, Rick. But I thought maybe that was just the way you do it.
What was your biggest duties on American Werewolf then, Steve?
On American Werewolf, you remember the Nazi demon scene?
Sure.
Yeah, there's 4 demons. Rick actually let me design and sculpt one, which was an amazing experience for me. But he also did, Rick sculpted and designed the giant puppet, of course, but then he made me do all the shit work. So I put that together, and like, no, you fool, hire. but I did kind of assemble that, and that was pretty much most of mine.
Which Nazi demon?
The really bad one.
Yeah,
the one that doesn't fit.
Doesn't look like it fits.
It's like one of these things. That ups you instantly knew. Yeah, that was the one.
I know Tom has a good story about an American Werewolf treasure that he's lost somewhere in North Hollywood, right, Tom?
Oh yeah. Well, I was given the assignment to come up with the eyes for the large wolf, and so what I started with. And Rick had done, these beautiful eyes before on masks, his masks, using the 5-minute epoxy and so forth. But we talked about it, and I think we wanted something with as much depth as we could get. And at that time, there wasn't really any decent clear resin. Most of the clear resins were, ended up being kind of cloudy, and you get air bubbles and so forth. So I thought, well, I've seen these acrylic spheres, at a plastic store. I thought, okay, well, why don't we'll cut, I'll carve in from the back of this plastic half sphere and try to create the iris and the pupil from that, paint it from the back side, and then and finish out the rest of the sphere with, you know, a black resin. Because they had to be really bright, they had to really, you know, have some yellow gold and so forth, really show up. So I was doing this. It was incredibly, you know, tedious to try to get it right and get them to try to match each other. So I had this perfect pair. It was looking really good, and I dropped one of them. And it just, you know, we were sitting. It was concrete floor. I was sitting in one of those high director chairs. So it, you know, it fell and bounced a couple times and rolled under the table. Okay, all right, damn. So I went down on my hands and knees and looked under the table, tried to, you know, it's got to be here somewhere. I could never find it. It just vanished.
We have an American Werewolf eyeball somewhere in North Hollywood. I'm going to go looking for that.
So I had to start all over because I wanted a pair that you know, matched each other.
And those guys were great. They were scary and demonic, as John wanted.
George Folsey, the producer, he was either flying from London or to London, and he had the severed head and his baggage, and you know, he figured, you know, he's bringing the severed head from them, and he's pulled over by customs. No, was he coming into London? So he come in, and they open it up, and there's this severed head, you know, and it's very, get out of here. And George says, the guy looked at him and said, you knew George Folsey. Dogs like that. He said, I'm a producer. I'm making a film in London. It's about a werewolf. And the guy said, just go. Just go. George tried to tell him the plot. The guy was like, get the fuck away.
All right, guys, I've got to wrap this up. So, again, let's thank our distinguished guests for joining us.
All these guys are truly gifted, and what is different, I started as a mailboy at Fox in '67, and I was there for Beneath the Planet of the Apes and stuff like that, and I knew Johnny Chambers well. All makeup artists kept secrets. It was a secret society. It was to keep you out of the union. And there were secrets, and Dick Smith in New York was very generous, as was actually John Chambers later. And what's interesting is that Rick Baker carries on the tradition from Dick. And what I admire about Rick, aside from his talent, is he's not closed. When computers started making headway and CG was coming in, and people were saying, oh, you can't use that, Rick was going, yeah, actually you could. And he was one of the first people I know who had a computer and started sculpting on a computer and was doing stuff like that. And he's always looking for, he's not stuck. I think he's a pain in the ass, but he really is brilliant. And I owe the success of American Werewolf in London really to David and to these guys, and I thank them publicly. Good. Academy Award for makeup for Rick Baker and his team.